Spooling a bait casting reel like this Abu Garcia Revo Toro 50 brings with it anticipation and a question. How big of a fish am I going to catch on this reel and this line? Hi, I'm Steve Panas. The question's also a reminder of what we do here will impact what happens on the water. There's 6 basic steps when spooling a bait casting reel. The first is determining how the line comes off the line spool. Normally it comes off the top, and this is especially important with fluorocarbon. You'll notice I've got the label toward you, I've got this on top, and you'll see how the line comes off. It has memory this way. That's important because when you turn the handle of the bait caster, the spool rotates toward you and loads the line the same way it comes off the line spool. Next, position your spool on some kind of holder. If you have a friend with a screwdriver, great, but if you're alone like I am, you can rig it up in multiple ways. Me, I'm going to use my old but trusty line winding station. Now run the tag end of the line through the lowest guide on your fishing rod and bring it down to the level wind portion of your reel. Now run the line through the level wind and underneath the spool. What I like to do is run it all the way through. It gives me a little more control. Then reach in with my pinky on the front end and on the back end and bring the line up like this. So now I've got the line around it. Now if I'm fishing big powerful fish that may spool me, I tie a secure knot here like a clinch knot or a 3-wrap uni to hold it tight. In this situation I'm not worried about that, so I'm going to just use a couple overhand knots. I just go like that and like this, and I draw that tight. This knot is designed to slip and pull it tight against the spool, so watch what happens when I pull it tight down to the spool. Now notice that this arbor knot lays really tight right there to the spool. That's important because it doesn't cause issues a little bit later. Now the next step is to actually trim it with a small scissors, and the temptation is to cut it as close to the knot as possible. Resist that temptation. Leave just a little bit extra tag end. Why do I do that? Well, remember, this is a slip knot, and by leaving that little extra tag end, it provides some additional insurance against that knot slipping under a big heavy load when you hook that big fish. Now when you're spooling, you want to keep a lot of tension on the line. That prevents bird nesting or the line digging into each other. I like to run the line through my forefinger and thumb right in front of the spool like this. But what I do is I like to fill it. Now the other important thing is when you get about, say, halfway through it or 3/4 of the way through it, look at your spool and make sure that the line's laying nice and flat. If it's not, you can adjust that by moving it to one side or the other of the spool. Just go the opposite direction of where the line is starting to pile up, and usually it disappears. But I've got this in a nice straight line with the spool, and it's laying down perfectly flat. Well, we're just about there. Now I want you to look at this very closely. You'll notice that the line does not extend past the blue edge of the spool. This is a fully filled reel. If you go any more than that, you're going to have nothing but problems. Now we just covered 2 very important line categories, fluorocarbon and mono. What about braid? Well, I tell you what, in the early days when braid first came out, everybody used a mono backing to keep the line tight to the spool and avoid issues with, say, digging in. But in the last decade or so, line technology has improved, reel technology has improved, and when I'm fishing a bass-sized reel like this Revo, I'm having no issues at all with bass-sized gear. However, if I'm fishing bigger stuff with bigger gear, like this Revo Toro, which has more line capacity and a wider spool, I'm still using a mono backing to avoid issues when I'm hooking big fish of that line digging in on itself. Hey, that's how to spool bait casting reels. It's simple, it's easy, and it's a lot of fun. Good luck on the water.